All right. So if everyone calls you when they need something, but they disappear when you do, or if you feel drained after every conversation, you are not being a good friend. You're being their unpaid therapist. In this video, I am going to show you the 5 signs that you have become an emotional caretaker in your relationships and why this pattern is keeping you stuck in one-sided connection. I want to make sure you stay until the end because I'm going to show you exactly what's happening and how to fix it. My name is Montina Myers-Galloway. I am a licensed therapist who has spent a decade specializing in helping women heal from overfunctioning and people-pleasing. My team and I have worked with over 500 women through over 6,500 hours of therapy, and the patterns I'm about to share with you, I see them every day in my practice. So I'm going to give you practical boundaries that you can start using today, okay? To stop absorbing everybody else's emotions. And you can also maintain the relationship. It just takes some practical skills. So if you have ever wondered why your friendships and your family relationships feel so exhausting, I'm excited to chat today. So grab your journal, get your coffee, and let's go to work. So let's walk through 5 signs that you have become everyone else's unpaid therapist. So sign number 1, you are the emotional dumping ground. So the first sign is that people use you as their emotional dumping ground. This means that they unload all of their problems onto you, but they never really ask how you're doing. Here's what that can look like. First, they might call you only when they have a problem or only when they need advice. Your conversations might feel like therapy sessions where you're doing all the listening. They're sharing their entire life story with you, and even when you barely know them. And then after conversations, you feel emotionally drained or heavy. You might even find yourself thinking about other people's problems and trying to solve other people's problems after the conversation ends. People have learned that you're a safe place to dump their stress, their anxiety, and their problems. But the relationship doesn't go both ways. And people will take what you freely give. Here's what's really happening. You likely never learned what a healthy or a reciprocal relationship looks like when you've grown up in a home where you've had to manage other people's emotions or your own emotions were neglected. Maybe you had a parent who overshared, or you had to be the mature one or the responsible one. Your body learned that it was just your job to absorb other people's feelings and problems. You unconsciously can send signals to people that you are completely available. Sign number 2. You give advice that nobody really asks you for. This second sign is that you're constantly trying to fix other people's problems even when they don't ask you for help. But here's what this could look like. You jump in with solutions before people finish explaining their problem. You might be feeling responsible for fixing other people's situations and even get frustrated when they don't take your advice. You might find yourself researching solutions for their problems in your own free time. People might be saying things like, I just need to vent, but you cannot help but to jump in and fix it. So if you're recognizing yourself in any of these, you might be confusing being supportive with being responsible. So you think that if you can just give them the right advice, it will solve all their problems. And somehow that will make you valuable in the relationship. Now, don't get stuck in this cycle of believing that you are helpful enough, or if you're insightful enough or supportive enough, people will need you, and if they need you, then they won't leave. But this really just creates relationships based on function and not true connection. Sign number 3, your relationships are one-sided. Now, this third sign is a big one. As a therapist, I see it more often than I would like. But is it that most of your relationships are completely one-sided? That means you show up for everyone, but no one shows up for you. When you need support, maybe people suddenly become unavailable or uncomfortable. Have you stopped sharing your struggles because you know no one really listens? Do you feel lonely even when you're surrounded by a lot of people? So if this is true for you, You're not in mutual relationships. You're in transactional ones. You've become the giver and everyone else has become the taker. And the worst part, you have trained them to treat you this way. So here's what's happening. Because you have porous boundaries, meaning that you don't know where you end and other people begin. I like to describe porous boundaries as a sponge. Anything can get in, anything can get out. But you've allowed your relationships to become unbalanced. You say yes when you mean no. You give when you are already on E. You listen when you really need to be heard. And over time, this just tells people you're always there and that they don't really have to reciprocate. Now, they're not necessarily bad people. They are just responding to what you have taught them is acceptable. Sign number 4, you can't separate your feelings from theirs. So this 4th sign is that you absorb other people's emotions like a sponge. You can't separate their feelings from your own. So when someone tells you something sad or something stressful, do you physically feel it in your body? Do you physically sense yourself tensing up? Do you carry that weight around you on a daily basis? Do you lose sleep worrying about someone else's situation? When someone is upset with you, does it completely derail your day or your week? So if this sounds familiar, you might be experiencing what we like to call emotional enmeshment, meaning you don't have emotionally healthy boundaries. And when someone else is hurting, you're hurting and you're anxious. Now, we're not talking about compassion or empathy, but we're talking about being so engulfed in the issues and emotions of others. You haven't quite gotten the skill of how to be compassionate without being consumed. So this often develops in childhood when your emotions weren't allowed to exist separately from those who cared for you. Maybe you had a parent who was emotionally volatile and you learned to monitor their moods to stay safe. Or maybe you had to suppress your own feelings to take care of theirs. Either way, it's important to learn that you can care about someone and maintain your own emotional equilibrium. All right, so sign number 5. You attract people who need fixing. So I primarily work with women in my practice, so I have a lot of relationship conversations. But this 5th sign is one that reveals a deeper pattern. And so those who constantly attract people who are struggling or who might need saving, it could look like this. So you might find yourself drawn to people with a lot of problems or a troubled past. You might even stay in friendships or relationships because you feel like they need you or that you could help them. You've been taught or been afraid and thought to yourself, well, what happens if I don't help them? Your relationships feel more like rescue missions than partnerships or friendships. This is often rooted in childhood trauma and emotional caretaking. And so if you had to be the stable one, the emotional support for your parents or a sibling, that probably has become your identity. And you learned that your value comes from being the rescuer in the relationship. So now, as an adult, you are unconsciously reenacting that in that dynamic. Healthy relationships aren't built on need. They're actually built on choice and authenticity. So until you heal this pattern, until you start to appreciate and value yourself, you'll keep attracting the same type of person or the same type of people, but just in different packaging. Okay, so now that you know this, you know the 5 signs, I want you to do everything in your power to change it. You learned these patterns. Because they helped you survive and they kept you safe, they earned you loved in the moment. It was culturally acceptable and acceptable in our family. It gave you a sense of purpose. But now you deserve relationships that fill you up and they do not drain you. You cannot fix these relationships by working harder at them. You fix them by setting boundaries, by having the courage to maintain boundaries. Now, I know that feels scary. I know you might be worried that if you stop being available or if you change your pattern, that people will leave you. But the truth is, the people who leave when you set boundaries were never there for you. They were there for what you could do for them. And that's not a relationship worth keeping. So now, if you are wondering why you became everyone's therapist in the first place, and I want you to know a lot of this goes back to what I call the good girl trap. It's the pattern where you learn to earn love by being helpful and by putting everyone else first. It's practically the root of why you can't say no and why your relationships are one-sided. So in another video, I'm going to link it here, I break down the 6 signs of the good girl trap and the exact steps to breaking free from this. So I want you to watch that next, because once you understand the deeper pattern, everything else starts to make sense. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.